Way back in 1982, Andy Partridge of the band XTC sang, "I can see, hear, smell, touch, taste, and I've got one, two, three, four, five senses working overtime." At the time, if you were standing on a demolition or construction site, those lyrics weren't just a pop hook. They were a health and safety briefing. To work in construction or demolition has always been to live with your senses in the red. It's a world where overtime is the default setting for the human nervous system. But what happens when that sensory symphony of the site is muted, one frequency at a time? For many, a demolition or construction site is an assault on the nostrils. But for those that work there, those smells are the comforting markers of a day's work. It's a heady, heavy cocktail of burnt diesel, the metallic tang of hydraulic fluid, and the sharp mineral scent of freshly pulverized concrete. On a summer morning, you might catch the damp, ancient smell of freshly dug earth, soil that hasn't seen the light of day for a century, mixing with the acrid smoke of a cold started engine. Those aren't just smells, they're memories. But as we shift towards electric plant, that chemical vocabulary is being erased. The side of the future will be largely scentless, or at best will smell of nothing more than ozone and dust. We're losing the comforting whiff of the job, and with it, the primal comforting connection to the machine we're operating. And then there's hearing. We've spent half a century trying to quieten the site to protect the ears of our workforce and the patience of our neighbours. And we've succeeded. The roar of the engine is becoming a thing of the past, a ghost. We've already seen the first signs of a shift to whisper quiet electric machines. And there's something eerie about a 20-ton excavator that moves with the stealth of a ninja. While we may retain the occasional squeak of steel tracks on broken concrete or the sound of an excavator bucket dropping rock into a waiting dump truck, the machines themselves are slowly falling silent. We're moving from a heavy metal concert to a library. Perhaps the most unexpected loss is that of taste. Each site has a specific flavour profile. It's really pleasant. It's the grit of fine dust that settles on your teeth. It's the metallic aftertaste of a day spent in the presence of welding and grinding. But mostly it's the taste of break time. If our workforce is located away from machines in air-conditioned hubs or home offices, they'll soon lose the familiar taste of bitter site coffee brewed in a stained kettle and served in a thin plastic cup. They'll lose the sweaty sandwich that has been festering in a lunchbox for hours in the blazing sun, the crusts curling in the heat. There's a camaraderie in that shared sustenance. When the operator of the future steps away from the screen to head to their modern kitchen for a freshly pressed espresso and a sourdough panini, they'll be physically comfortable, but they'll be isolated from the shared hardship that once forged the bond of the site team. The sense of touch is perhaps the most profound casualty of this remote revolution. Operating a machine used to be a full body experience. You felt the hitch of the engine through the soles of your boots. You felt the resistance of the ground through the seat of your pants. You knew if you hit a stray piece of rebar or a soft patch of clay because the machine told you through vibration. If operators are working from a remote station, they'll retain the feel of a warm seat and of joysticks, but it's a haptic lie. The modern joystick is a fly-by-wire interface. It's smooth, dampened, and polite. It offers none of the kickback of an old hydraulic lever. The vibration that tells you the limit of the machine's reach or the tipping point of its balance is being filtered out by software. We're touching the machine, but we're no longer feeling the ground beneath it. And then finally, we lose the sight. It seems counterintuitive. We have more cameras than ever, but seeing a 3D render on a 4K monitor is not the same as looking through a dusty windscreen. When you're on site, your eyes are working in 3 dimensions, constantly adjusting for depth and shadows, the subtle movement of a banksman's hand. You see the dust rise and you know exactly how the wind is catching it. If you're working remotely, you'll no longer be able to see your machine other than as a digital representation on a computer monitor. The machine becomes an avatar. Demolition and construction becomes a video game. We're placing a digital veil between the worker and the work. We are undeniably making the industry safer. We're making it cleaner. We're hopefully making it more accessible to a new generation who prefer pixels to pistons. But in our rush towards clinical efficiency of the future, we're stripping away the very things that made this industry feel real. Back in 1982, as XTC sang, our senses were working overtime just to keep up with the sheer noisy, vibrating reality of the build and break process. We were exhausted, we were filthy, and we were sometimes deafened, but we were entirely present. One day soon, we could find ourselves in a sensory vacuum, no longer buffeted by the elements or the engines, safe, clean, but disconnected. The overtime will be over, and our senses will be working only part-time.